If this entire quest taught me anything, it's that relationships are hard. We're all looking for love. I mean, granted, your job isn't secretly committing genocide for a lunatic. That can surely complicate things. But I mean, at the end of the day, the guy is just looking to get married. It is crazy in this game they can have a character like this committing such atrocities, and yet the writing is so good you can somewhat sympathize with him because Rerir is not a cut and dry evil character, or a simple villain. He's doing evil things, but he does have a conscience and it does eat at him. We learned a lot about Conry on this patch, about the 5 sinners, but just how dark their history is and how flawed of a civilization they were. For years we just viewed Conria as this juggernaut godless nation gathering intel, science, magic from other worlds and abyssal powers. But it's so much darker than we realized. So let's go over the Raker of Solnari, Rerir, his past, leading up to the current game, and if he'll return. Because we're only in 6.1 in Nod-Krai, and we just battled and quote-unquote defeated the greatest villain we've ever fought so far, which is kinda crazy if you think about it. There's no way Rerir is done yet. I know I already referenced this in my last video, but I think a certain Harbinger is pulling the strings and might be behind Rerir all along. But first, let's start with Rerir himself and everything we know. Firstly, let's start with his name, the Raker of Solnari. I wondered about his name, and we know that people from Conry and Conry itself gets most of its inspiration from Germany and German names, which can be translated to Avenger or one who commits vengeance, which perfectly lines up with Rerir, but it's meant to be interpreted as Moon Hunter, which makes even more sense. And that's one of the biggest parts of this quest. We learn that Rerir hates the moon and is hunting that power. But before the Cataclysm, unlike the other 5 sinners, Rerir was not of high ranking, high standard, from a rich noble family. He was a pretty relatively normal dude, serving as an intelligence officer for King Ermin. That's why Nefer was able to appreciate his line of work to an extent, because she also gathers intelligence in current-day Nod-Krai. She doesn't, however, commit genocide. His girlfriend and kind of fiancé Thalindis, because she didn't quite say yes, which has gotta sting. They seemed relatively happy and in love, but she didn't know he had a secret job assigned to him by King Ermin to kill the remaining descendants of the Crimson Moon Dynasty. And Thalindis was a descendant of the Crimson Moon Dynasty herself, but she was like a 2nd or 3rd gen. King Ermin didn't seem to care though. And although it ate away at him, he continued this work. He did it. He did what needed to be done. His hands were so full of blood, it's not even funny. The reason these individuals are referred to as the 5 sinners is because their major sin is not just absorbing abyssal powers, but they are said to absorb world-shattering amounts of abyssal power. Stuff that helps them rival even like the Shades, the Angels, Celestia itself. Look how strong Sertologi became. Rhindaughter fused with one of the Shades. And the rest of the sinners are no slouches. Look how strong Rerir is. And he's basically unkillable, that's why we had to banish him. That is their great sin, which brought the Cataclysm to Conria and its demise. But if you ask me, Rerir had a bigger sin already before he even gained that power. Like when he's crossing off people he's killed and they get younger and younger, legitimately little kids that pose no threat to King Ermin or Conria at all. And this slowly ate away at him. Dainsleif was his friend but didn't even know this, didn't even know what he was going through. And the visionary Vedalfonir was able to see this coming a mile away, advising him to abandon his marriage because it's not going to work. For the shit that Rerir was doing, they really did a good job writing this character and humanizing him because he was conflicted over his job, but he was trying to justify his actions as a necessary evil, but then he slowly realized that, man, I'm killing like 3rd and 4th descendants that are generations apart. Like his fiancée that's barely a descendant. Then he couldn't hide the fact anymore that his actions are actually diabolical, like they're bad. That's when he starts letting some kids go. But by the time they tried to free Dainsleif's brother, his hands were so bloodied that the Abyss had no problem taking control of him, manipulating him, and ultimately he succumbed to the Abyss along with the other 5 sinners. The Abyss itself is definitely an enigma within Genshin Impact because it's an intelligent phenomenon and force that nobody can seem to control. Even the heavenly principles just create a barrier outside Teyvat, this bubble world and false sky to protect it. It's able to even corrupt primordial beings like the Dragon King Nibelung, so what chance in hell do mere humans have? Desires, lust for power, vengeance, evil thoughts, it's able to manipulate a lot of different human emotions, especially selfish ones. And that's when Vedalfnir tells him that monsters are attacking his fiancée as we speak. And I still find this funny that he left a blind man in his cell to try to escape now by himself. When he found Tholindis, she told him that she had learned his secret and entered a mysterious portal to another world. Before she left though, she gave him a hint to wait for their normal life together. This left Rerir in ultimate despair, and that's when he fully gave in to the abyssal powers along with the other sinners. For him, it was hopes that these powers could help him find his fiancée. Actually, I don't even know if we can call her a fiancée, she did not say yes. And we can see Dainsleif is shocked by this betrayal. Unlike the other 5 sinners, he actually believed Rerir was a man with no grand ambitions, just a regular guy, so it shocked him. He didn't know what his friend was going through and why he would want that abyssal powers. And when the cataclysm came, the 5 sinners abandoned Conria. They did not even remotely try to help. And that's how they gained their title of the 5 sinners and became hated by now the immortal Conrians. And this is where Rerir acquired an unnatural fixation and obsession with the moons beyond the false sky. The moons are kind of like the root cause of all of his grief. If it wasn't for the moons, there'd be no Crimson Moon descendants, he wouldn't have had to kill them, getting his hands bloody. And after the cataclysm, Rerir formed the group known as the Wild Hunt. But it's said that he somehow fell into the moon's reflection, which is considered the point of no return. And when he disappeared, the Wild Hunt began to grow out of control, since they didn't have a leader or anyone coordinating them. But as we learned through Albedo and his diligent research, Rerir survived thanks to his immense abyssal power. And like Albedo states, it's hard to kill somebody like this, pretty much near impossible. They don't actually outright know how. It's kind of like Durin, not mini Durin, but actual Durin on Dragonspine. His beating heart was there for years, still technically existing but dormant, which was a key component later on to create mini Durin. But now he was left without a physical body and kind of like a phantom version of himself that's just manifested rage and hate. Not a complete being, but kind of like a chaotic, crazy person. It's hard to explain what he became, but his physical body was torn to shreds. Just like the dead moon goddess of the iridescent moon that became the Crimson Moon. A dead moon corrupted by the abyss, it's the same thing. That moon goddess described it as being torn apart by 1,000 blunt blades. But he was able to string together enough components of himself to form an incoherent phantom. But his main component, which was his heart, was in Flynn's lantern. So now Rerir had to search for different fragments of himself. But then he figured out if he uses Kavaki power, he can make himself whole again much quicker. Pretty much almost put himself back together like a perfect Humpty Dumpty that he was. And when he learns of the Traveler's arrival, he's able to pose as our Abyss sibling and try to steal the fragment, but unfortunately, Wilhelmina betrays Lauma and takes it first, giving it to Sandrone. Still needing Kavaki power, he poses as Flynn's superior Sosi to convince us and Anino to rebuild the cannon, later then taking Flynn's form to murder Sosi, then afterwards having the cannon aimed at himself to restore his form, which happened in 6.0. And even only at 10% power, we're not even close to a match for him, even with all our allies, multiple Fatui Harbingers, a Grand Master, a Descender, like this guy is no joke. And that's pretty well his entire story. We're all caught up now. In 6.1, what we just played through, he's just trying to continue gathering Kuvaki energy. The greatest source of it would be Columbina herself, being the new reincarnated moon goddess of the Frost Moon. So we distract him and basically stall him out until we can come up with a plan to use his own power against him and banish him. Even peering into his past, he's able to reverse the effects, and he nearly traps Nefer in her own memories, until a pendant that Alice gave to Dory saved her life. A new powered-up Columbina was able to restrain him and open a gate beyond the sky. He didn't believe that she was powerful enough to hold this gate and restrain him at the same time. Then she states that she's not. and that's when he notices in shock his old friend Dainsleif, assisting in his own defeat. He betrayed Dainsleif long ago, now Dainsleif gets to return the favor, which leaves us now with the obvious question, is he gone for good? Well, it seems highly unlikely. Don't you think that everything in 6.1, when it's all said and done, went a little too smoothly? And we're only in 6.1, like we got lots, and I mean lots of Nod-Krai left. We are able to banish him successfully. Even the Fatui Harbingers like Sandrone, Columbina, Arlecchino, they're all getting along with each other. They even get along with the Grand Master and everyone else from Nod-Krai, like everyone's getting along. So who's going to be the big bad now in 6.2? First thing I want to point out is, where did we send him? Just a random place outside Tevat? We know 500 years ago his fiancée jumped through a portal. Could they reconnect? Could this actually be the potential beginning of him rehabilitating himself? Actually getting somewhat of a happy ending with his fiancée? I mean, it's possible he reconnects with Delindis, but I don't think he's gonna have a happy ending. I don't think this is how it goes. But I do think he's gonna return. It only makes sense because we haven't had a weekly boss battle with him yet, and he's one of the 5 sinners. You can't just kill him off that easy, and him not return. It just doesn't make sense. But something I noticed is, it's been 500 years that he's tried to piece himself together, fragment by fragment. But weirdly enough, it seems to have accelerated really fast once we arrived in Nod-Krai. So out of 500 years, the last few weeks, month, maybe, I don't know how long we've been in Nod-Krai so far, like timeline-wise, I don't know the exact amount of days, but it certainly seems like somebody's pulling the strings behind all this. And he was hinted at not once, but twice in this game, in a very sinister and off-putting way. Dottore, the Doctor. My theory is that 1, Dottore is going to be the main big bad villain of Nod-Krai, and he's a big reason why Rerir was able to piece himself back together much quicker once we arrived. Flynn's, Lauma, pretty much everyone has stated multiple times that it's extremely weird that Rerir was able to do that. Like, he legitimately shouldn't be able to make these kinds of tactical maneuvers in his state. Maybe now that he's more whole, yes, but to get to this point, it makes sense for the Doctor to have orchestrated this, and there's a lot of motive here. You might be thinking, how could he have known this would all play out this way? But honestly, how could he not? It's the Doctor we're talking about. Let me explain, it'll all make sense. When we met the Doctor first in Sumeru, the guy literally beat us without even lifting a finger, and he's able to trade secrets with the God of Wisdom. So dottore knows about the false sky. He probably knows just about all there is to know, establishing he knows things, which means he knows about the 5 sinners, the history of Conria, the moons, all that crap. Now let's look at Arlecchino's conversation with Sandrone. So that close colleague who stayed behind with you, what's he been up to recently? Sandrone jokes about how she doesn't care for him all that much, but then she recalls he hasn't actually bugged me for anything recently, and I don't know what he's been up to. I wonder if... Then Arlecchino states how she hates the Doctor, it'd be great if he just vanished and disappeared. He won't lay low forever, so we'd better stay on guard. Now why would they have to stay on guard? That's their colleague. Because they don't trust him. This is at the end of the quest, and it's meant to set up something bigger. The Doctor is fully aware and knows everything there is to know about his colleagues, including Columbina, but also Arlecchino. He knows about her Crimson Moon lineage, what she's capable of. He knows Columbina's strengths and what she's capable of. If Dottore were to go up to Arlecchino and say, hey, can you open up a doorway so I can go get a moon fragment of the Crimson Moon? She would tell him to kick rocks. She hates him. Arlecchino's always learning, always studying. Scaramouche turning into a god was an expected failure. He learned a lot from that. Rerir piecing himself back together so fast, and the tactical maneuvers of posing as her sibling, impersonating Flynn's to kill his superior, and having the cannon rebuilt, they said it themselves in this quest. He shouldn't be capable of this, because I don't think he is. If the Doctor was to revive Rerir, knowing Columbina's now a fugitive of the Fatui, and her good-hearted nature, he would be fully aware that she would need to come in contact with more moon fragments to power up. And Dottore would know exactly how they would beat Rerir. He would know they don't stand a chance in brute strength or power or even killing him. Il Dottore knows exactly who's in Nod-Krai, what they're doing. He would have figured out how we plan to defeat Rerir. And he also knows Columbina would reach out to Arlecchino for her help. He would be fully aware that the girls of the Fatui Harbingers have their tea parties and they get along. He knows Rerir would also locate and track down the fragment of the Frost Moon Scions, which he almost did, but then we got it. Dottore also ran into us before, he's dealt with us, so he knows that we'll do whatever it takes to win, and we usually come out on top. All in all, helping piece together Rerir leads him to exactly what he's looking for, more moon fragments. Remember this flashback cryptic line from Thalindis, talking about having all 3 moons together blank? Well, I bet you Dottore knows what these blanks mean. Why else would Arlecchino and Sandrone say we gotta stay on guard? And the Pyro Archon told us point blank that he was studying the moon and the false sky and Natlin when she blasted it open. I'm telling you, Dottore's playing chess while everyone's playing checkers. They're chasing around a sinner while he's doing things behind the scenes, but it seems Arlecchino is aware of this. They at least suspect something's going on. He's been laying low, something's not quite right. And like I said, we have no villain anymore. Who are we gonna fight in 6.2? We're not gonna just load into the next patch, everyone's getting along. Hell, even the Traveler's getting along with Sandrone now. She was in a great mood, so she shared a bunch of history with us on her past in LA. Who is really left to fight? Plus, going into Snezhnaya in 7.0, it makes complete sense for the Doctor to orchestrate everyone gathering the moon fragments for him to execute whatever plan he has, along with the Gnosis they've been collecting for when we get to Snezhnaya going on the Fatui's home turf, they become the bad guys again for Project Stuja or whatever they're doing. Plus, it seems like the morally gray area harbingers, the evil ones like the Regrator, the Rooster, the Doctor, are all the main ones that are left now. And ultimately, I could fully see the Doctor bringing back Rerir or trying to find a way to get him back to be a thorn in our side and keep us distracted. Even if the Doctor has nothing to do with this and my theory's completely wrong, I still think Rerir's going to return somehow. Maybe he finds his fiancée and they're able to actually find a way to get back, and then we truly have to fight and defeat him. But I just can't help but think he's behind this. Everything's played out so well. He's got to see a 5-sinner in action, see how we react to it, have all the moon fragments located easily for him now, ready to collect when he's ready. So in conclusion, that is the complete story and history of Rerir, but also what I think's gonna happen in Nod-Krai going forward. Rerir might discover his fiancée, get to have some cool dialogue there, maybe even learn some other things wherever we send him, and find his way back for a final battle. All of which I speculate is orchestrated by the Doctor. Again, I have no proof of this, but just the way they hint towards the Doctor multiple times in this quest for a reason, and the fact that Rerir's gone now, at least for the time being, that just makes the most sense to me. But again, let me know your thoughts in the comments. What do you think of Rerir in his past? Do you think he'll have a bittersweet moment before we finally defeat him for good? Do you even think he'll return at all? And finally, do you think the Doctor is pulling the strings here? Do you think there's going to be a massive rift within the Fatui Harbingers where the morally good Harbingers will eventually side with the Traveler, whereas the more evil Harbingers like the Rooster, the Regrator, and the Doctor will then continue along with Project Stuja? Remember, Piero loathes the gods. He will stop at nothing to get what he wants. At the end of the day, even the Harbingers themselves are all pawns on the chessboard. And like he said himself, checkmate is not where the game ends. In my next few videos, I want to talk about Octavia and the new game mode in Genshin Impact, because there's some more Hex and Circle lore there. I also want to talk about the Captain and just give my honest review on his story, because I'm not sure how to feel about the Captain. It's been a year now, so I want to talk about him. I am currently working on a timeline video, as well as my full Sumeru characters lore video. Now that Nefer's out, I can finally complete that. So thanks for being patient for that video. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe for more content like this, and as always, we will see you all in the next one. Later.